The Night Diary is a prime example of epistolary fiction, i.e., a story which is written in the form of letters. This particular one is written during the partition of India in 1947 and is a poignant tale of hunger, discrimination, friendship, family, and belonging. And to converse about it with us is Aadya.
Hi, I'm Aadya. I'm 15 and love finding and reading new books. It's great to be back on the podcast after so long. Now, about the Night Diary. The plot of the book revolves around a young girl named Nisha, whose mother is a Muslim and her father is a Hindu. It is set during the partition of India in 1947 and details the journey of Nisha, her possibly ADHD brother Amir, her nigh indestructible father, and her cranky dadi from their original home to New India. It is a superbly written book, particularly due to its letter format.
Hey Aadya, it's great to have you back. Yeah, I really enjoyed the way the letters are used, particularly, like you said, to impact the story. So, what about you? Would you care to elucidate on that point you made earlier?
Yes, I do believe that the diary format enhances the flavor of the book as it emphasizes the time gap between particular incidents using the diary entries. It also shows how much the incidents which have occurred have shaken her to the point where she doesn't write to her mother, whom she misses very much. It just goes to show how dark those days were and how badly humanity can turn on each other.
I tend to agree with you. It's horrible to read what has happened in our past and the sheer brutal and animalistic way people behaved, our brethren behaved, sends shockwaves running through you whenever you think about it.
It does tend to give a different point of view to the events that we have read about in our history textbooks. The partition of India was a horrific reality with mass exodus of people. So many tragedies, so much death and strife. It must have been a terrible time. Which incident shook you the most?
Well, it's a disturbing time in Indian history, as we've discussed already. So it's natural that there are more than a few moments which stay with you. Firstly is the time when Nisha is unable to tell her father about a family that is breaking up right in front of her eyes. Then there is the time when even when her father saves a man's life, they are denied water. But the one that stands out the most are the moments when it seems that Nisha's twin, Amil, so vivacious, so lively, is about to leave the world behind. All of these moments shook me and stick with me even today because of the darkness of the world they inhabit, and that world is not more than a few decades away. But it is because Nisha finds herself during the journey that she keeps her morals and sanity alive, which is impressive considering that her identity is shaped by her mixed heritage. Her father is a Hindu and her mother is a Muslim. How do you think this duality affects her sense of self?
I believe that to Nisha, it was just a fact that her mother was a Muslim. Since she did not get to know her mother, she did not get to know her Muslim heritage. I believe that the duality she had came from Qazi and her Muslim friends. To her, the partition was just leaving her friends behind and moving to a new city just because her family is Hindu.
Hadn't thought of it that way. Nina does undertake a journey, but one of the major constants throughout it is the food. From Kazi teaching her how to make it to the way it keeps her alive in her journey, a central theme in the book is food. The smell of it, the texture of it, the colors. That is very interesting. It hasn't really been done to my knowledge before. While the concept of comfort food has become a fad now, it resonates in the same way in this book. What do you think?
I think that at the time of the partition, food was something to survive on. However, the author has made food out to be a comfort for Nisha. Cooking food was her way of bonding with Kazi and essentially an escape. The way she describes the food she eats at her uncle Rashid's house is just beautiful. When Nisha cooks with Kazi or her uncle, she is calming herself down and finding comfort in the smell of spices and the process of making food. I can completely relate with her here. Whenever I have too many thoughts in my head or I am panicking, I just need coffee to calm myself down and comfort myself. I just love the coffee that my mom makes for me. Another thing that comforts me is the presence of my family, my people around me. Nisha's relationship with her brother Amil undergoes significant changes. It is a very interesting take on how familial bonds are affected by external factors, isn't it?
Yes, the book does have its own interesting perspective on the way that familial bonds are formed. For one, I believe that the reason Nisha and her family end up becoming closer during their journey is due to the hardships that they have to endure, and they endure them together as a family. Nisha herself realizes something when she thinks she is going to die. She realizes that although her family do not express affection towards each other through their words or even through obvious touch, it is present in all of the small things, the little things they do for each other. The bonds they form are formed deeply, for they are bonds of blood, and they have been formed due to blood. They're constantly open to each other because they do trust each other above anybody else, which is what made me realize how much the novel touches on the concept of borders. And once I had figured that out, once I had seen it, I couldn't unsee it. I kept wondering which border limits us more, the physical one or the metaphorical one.
The metaphorical border, I believe, is always there. Even if somebody does not have their physical borders in place, their mental walls are always up. Our thoughts form our metaphorical borders. We see an example of this in the Night Diary. Even before the partition, even between children, there was discrimination based on their religious belief. Boys tried to beat up Amil because he was of a different religion. And once Nisha found out about the discrimination, she began to categorize her friends according to their religion. Even before the Ratcliffe line was drawn on land, it had already been etched on their hearts.
That is so true. You know, Aadya, this was my first book on partition. While I'd heard a lot about it, seen a lot about it, studied a lot about it, this was the first time that I sat alone and read and cried and read and cried. It was a journey, like all books are. It was a macabre one, like some books are, but it was a journey in the end. Like discovering new books is a journey. But a journey is always better, safer, more companionable if you have a good companion. And we at Bookbibuli are enjoying the adventure of discovering books together. I hope so are you.
Of course, I'm really enjoying finding out about new books that interest me when I'm in a reading slump. And it is always intriguing to hear about some of my favorite books from someone else's point of view through Bookbibuli episodes. If it was left up to me, I don't think that I would ever have picked up The Night Diary to read. It is an emotional book about the partition of India and not the type of book I would read normally. Bookbibuli urged me to read The Night Diaries, and I'm so glad I did. Through it, I learned something about the impact of the partition of India and to start reading outside my comfort zone.
Thank you, Aadya, for your kind words. We hope that more and more people start to go out of their comfort zones in reading. I also thank you for the enlightening and sparkling conversation we've had on an enlightening and sparkling book itself, and also for being on the podcast yet again. So thank you and goodbye. The Night Diary is a blast from the past, a remembrance of the bloody history of India. Caused due to religion, it shows the worst side of humanity with all of its flaws, vicious, vengeful, and bloodthirsty. But to pair it off, it brings in themes of hope, home, and family to ensure that even as it imprints upon your mind and leaves you wary, it also leaves you with something to root for, something for the soul. It tells the tale of the partition, and does it so simply and ever so skillfully that all loose ends are tied up. The characters are masterfully created, and Nisha's mother's influence on the story, coupled with the way the letters impact the story, creates a lasting effect. Now it's time for Bookbibuli Read Record. Due to the way the book is written, mainly in the form of letters, it creates a silky disconnect with the events of the book, as sometimes only days pass between important incidents, but on occasion it can go up to weeks. It creates an impression of things going on behind the scenes while maintaining its superb flow. The book is suitable for children of more than 8 years of age at the very least. The ideal reading path leading up to this book would be One Day in August, Suffer, and Across the Line. And the ideal next book to read would be Ahimsa by Supriya Kelkar. The Night Diary is an expertly written novel in classic epistolary style with a story to tell and all the means to do so. So, until we meet next time, better read, read better,